Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. I'm your co-host, Philip, and unfortunately, it is just me today. My brother and I usually record together, as everybody knows. However, um, something has came up, and my brother is a little bit busier than I usually am, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to put out my own content for this week. Fill in for my brother, and since it is Star Wars week, and May the 4th is tomorrow, I definitely wanted to put out an episode related to Star Wars this week, and I thought that I would come on and I would do my own little episode about Star Wars. So, as you know, Star Wars is a big part of not only this podcast, but of our lives. And it has been something that has impacted us throughout the years, ever since we were small kids to now. And I mean, now we're in our, early 20s, and now, we're moving on to the next stages of our life. And Star Wars is still as strong in our hearts and, on our minds as it was when we were little kids watching it on a laptop. And in honor of May 4th, just like we did last year, we put out a May the 4th episode last year. If you haven't checked it out, please go check it out. Basically, we kind of talked about, how we got into Star Wars and, why we love Star Wars so much and, how our love has continued to grow and shine throughout the years. However, because it is just me today, I wanted to do more of a personal story behind my own reasoning for getting into Star Wars and how I not only was introduced to it, but how it impacted my life and how even in some really dark moments, it helped me get through those difficult times. And like I said, because my brother is not here, I thought I'd just share my own personal story. So this is probably going to be a shorter episode. Of course, I'll space it out and, I'll take my time as I, talk to you guys and, just let you know my own personal story and what Star Wars means to me. But this episode is definitely going to be under an hour, so it's a nice little treat for you guys this week. We might be out with some more content later in the week, but at least for now, since we usually record and everything on Wednesdays, I wanted to put out a little bit of content for you guys. So, I really hope you enjoy it. I hope everybody is doing well today. Of course, I would ask my brother how he's doing. As far as I know, he's doing okay. He just had some things come up with work and everything, so that's why he's not here. I'm personally doing pretty good. I recently just finished my spring semester at university. So I have a few weeks off until I go back for the summer semester. Otherwise, school was great. I finished strong. Work has been really good. Staying busy here and there. And, other than that, just kind of same old, same old. So, I mean, good health, good spirit. I hope everybody that's watching is in good health and good spirit and doing good. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So, as I mentioned, today's episode is going to basically focus on my own personal journey throughout Star Wars. And I was thinking about this a little bit when I was at work earlier. Trying to find the right words to say, and how I was going to explain this to you guys. And I came up with a pretty solid story. And I'm going to try to remember as much as I can and kind of stick to said story. I did just say it a few hours ago, so so hopefully I remember. But if not, we'll just go with the flow. So when I like to think of Star Wars, everybody is a fan of their own fan base. You have people that are diehard Marvel fans, DC fans, Game of Thrones, Star Trek, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, The Walking Dead, etc. So you have fans from across multiple genres of film and shows. Now, for some people, just being part of a fandom or being a fan just means that you just simply enjoy the content. And, that's all it is to you. It's just a really cool movie to see, or it's just a really cool show to watch. However, there are those instances where not only are you fans, but your fandom and the franchise that you support has a deeper meaning behind it than it would for most people. And when it comes to Star Wars, that is definitely where I feel like it stands. I feel like Star Wars has had a very impactful and meaningful impact on my life. And I wouldn't just say I'm just simply a fan, just I love the movies, I love the TV shows. My fandom goes a lot deeper than maybe some other people. And I think my brother would agree if he was here that he would feel this exact same way. I mean, you guys can see in the background, over here, a First Order banner. Over there, I got some small Star Wars posters and Funko Pops. I mean, literally to the right of me right now, I got a whole bookcase of just Star Wars stuff. I got Star Wars stuff above me, so I got the whole Star Wars tattoo here. For those of you that are listening via podcast, you won't see this, but I got a whole arm tattooed for Star Wars. So it has definitely had a much deeper impact on my life. The earliest memory that I can remember when it has come to Star Wars was it was in the mid 2000s, I would like to say. And for those of you that are from up north, specifically New York, there was a hurricane known as Hurricane Sandy. And the hurricane caused us to miss school, and it took out some power. So we had to rely on generators and battery operated things until we got power back. And during one of those days where we didn't have power and we needed to find a way to entertain ourselves, thankfully, my dad's laptop was actually, fully charged and it was ready to use. And me and my brother decided to sit down in his bedroom on the floor, and we pulled out this movie. And this movie was called Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And no, it's not the TV series that we all know and love, but it is the original. I want to say like 2008 is when they produced it. The 2008 movie where we meet our characters for the first time, and especially we meet Ahsoka, who has become a fan favorite character to this day. And me and my brother sat down. Excuse me. We popped the movie in, and from there we started watching. And I think we watched it a few times over and over again as one of our only forms of entertainment. And we fell in love with Star Wars. I would like to say that my brother was actually the first one between us to get into Star Wars. I think he was into Star Wars a little bit earlier than me. I think he would collect some of the Star Wars Legos and the action figures. Um, so I believe, as far as I can remember, this is my first time, truly experiencing Star Wars and seeing what it's all about. He might have already had some background knowledge, which is why we probably watched it. But nevertheless, we watched it, and from there, our Star Wars journey blossomed and began. After the hurricane, and as time went on, now that we watched the Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie, we shifted to start watching the Star Wars: The Clone Wars series. And obviously, because we were younger, we originally started on Cartoon Network with yes, those classic commercials that you would see for the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network. And we would tune in every now and then and catch an episode or two. And we weren't super religious where we knew like what days it was streaming and like what days to sit down and watch. When it came on, we watched it, and we did as best as we could, for kids. And for there, our love for Star Wars continued to grow. Not only did we watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie, but we also started to watch the series. And from there, as we started watching the Clone Wars series, we both started going out and getting Star Wars Legos and action figures and merchandise. And from there, our love for Star Wars truly began to grow and grow. And originally it hit a point where we had currently finished whatever they released for the Clone Wars, because as you know, the Clone Wars ended abruptly, and then it was kind of on hiatus for a few years, and then it recently just returned, I want to say in maybe like 2020, 2019, for the seventh and final season. So, at that time, we basically watched all that they had out, and overall, our Star Wars journey pretty much encompassed the prequel trilogy and the prequel era before we dove into the other eras and the other movies that were within the franchise. So to elaborate further on that, me and my brother were definitely considered like prequel kids. I mean, obviously within the Star Wars universe, there are three different trilogies. There's the prequel trilogy that focuses on the Clone Wars era. There is the original trilogy that focuses on the Galactic Civil War, and then there is the sequel trilogy which focuses on like the rise of the First Order and its eventual fall and destruction. And just growing up, based on when we were born and when we were exposed to Star Wars, obviously in the early 2000s, the prequel trilogy was being made and it was being released into theaters, and that was the most recent bit of Star Wars content that has came out um, in the last couple of decades. So obviously, we definitely grew up with the prequel trilogy. That's why it's one of our favorite trilogies to this date, and why Revenge of the Sith is one of my personal favorite Star Wars movies. So, but however, after we finished the Clone Wars series and, we were kind of figuring out, what was next when it came to Star Wars for us, we decided to dive into the older original trilogy, which were Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, and then Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And, from there, we were introduced to a whole new array of characters and, planets and places. And, again, our love for Star Wars just continued to grow and grow as we were introduced to all these new characters, this whole new era. And everything was just so mind-boggling, but it was also amazing. I mean, because obviously to us, not only were we becoming fans of this universe and franchise, but we were discovering everything, with fresh eyes, and we didn't really know much about it. So every step we took was like a little adventure for us. And from there, we watched the original trilogy, we fell in love with those movies too, and our Star Wars knowledge continued to grow and grow. I want to say around the teen years of the 2000s, um, Disney or Star Wars announced that they were going to be making a second animated show called Star Wars Rebels, which I believe originally aired on Disney XD until everything went to Disney Plus, later on in the 2000s. Excuse me. And, from there, we had more original trilogy content to binge and to watch, and I feel like we were a little bit more religious with Star Wars Rebels, given that we were older and, we knew when the content was coming out. And again, just like everybody else, we started off by watching it on Disney XD, seeing the commercials, getting excited for it to air, and, we watched it through and through. And not only did we conquer the prequel trilogy, but we also conquered the original trilogy. And, while we were watching the movies and the shows, we kept collecting tons and tons of Legos and merchandise and action figures. And I mean, literally in our mother's house on New York, we have three shelves like full of Star Wars Legos that were built over the years for our enormous collection that we have, acquired. And you really think back at it, and, I mean, I even think about it to this day, now that I'm older, it's like, I wonder how much money I've spent in the last decade alone on just Star Wars and just nerdy memorabilia, and, honestly, I probably would not like the answer, but I don't regret it one bit, I really don't. So after we finished Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars was a little bit on like a hiatus. There wasn't really much content coming out. We didn't know what the future of Star Wars, um, you know, had for us. And we continued to grow up. Our love for Star Wars never wavered. It never faltered. But we continued to grow up and expand, and move on with our lives, so to speak. And one of the most influential and important moments with Star Wars for me personally was when I recently just finished high school. I graduated high school, and now I was starting the next phase of my life where I was looking for different colleges to apply to and different colleges to attend. Finally, I found one that I thought would be a good fit. I joined the freshman class at the University of Buffalo in 2017. I pursued a bachelor's in history, which I currently do have, but that will be further elaborated on in a little bit. So I started my journey up to the University of Buffalo, which I lived on Long Island, which is like, in the southern part of New York. So obviously Buffalo is up in the northern part of New York, like right on the border between the United States and Canada. So I was a long way home, but I was still young and I was excited for the challenge and to start my own life and enjoy all these new experiences that being away from home had to offer. I learned to grow up, I learned to take care of myself, and everything was going pretty swimmingly for a while, to be honest. Then one day, I came home for what I believe was spring break, and I was going back to the airport to head back up to Buffalo. And for some reason, I couldn't get back on that flight. I don't know what it was. It was like something in my body was telling me, like, do not go back up to Buffalo. Don't go on this flight. Don't do this. And, after a lot of encouragement and kind of like pulling myself together, I was eventually able to get myself back on that flight and head back up to school. And, from that moment on, that's when it really started to go downhill. I was fine for a little bit. However, the sudden pressure of being away from home, being away from my family, and feeling more and more isolated, because unfortunately, I didn't really make any friends. I wasn't going out. I was kind of just going to class and then just staying in my room. And I wasn't doing anything else. And all that piled together, eventually became bad news for myself. And I was in a really dark place, and I had no idea what was happening to me because I never experienced any of this before. And even to this day, it's still a little hard to talk about because it is a part of my life that I don't try to ignore, but more I want to forget because it was definitely where I was at my lowest, and I didn't even recognize myself. And just thinking about what I went through, um, it was amazing that I survived in the first place, to be completely honest. I can go further and further into detail, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for um, the positive turnaround. Um, so when I found myself at my lowest and at my darkest, I did things to keep myself preoccupied. I would talk to family and friends on the phone. I'd have them distract me with conversation. Um, but the one thing that really helped me through it all, to be completely honest, is Star Wars. Whether it was playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 with my brother for hours on end and just being transported into a whole other world and forgetting about everything, or rewatching and binging, all these Star Wars TV shows and the movies. I remember that there were times where I'd be looking forward to going home for break, and I would have what I would call like, my Star Wars movie thons. And basically the week before, I would watch a Star Wars movie every day because I knew if I kept watching these movies throughout the week, that the sooner I got finished to completing the movies was the sooner I was able to come home. And in those moments, Star Wars really came through for me, and it really helped me kind of forget about my situation and look at brighter things to come. Eventually, I was able to successfully come home, and I ended up transferring to a school called SUNY Westbury for my sophomore year back down to Long Island. So not only was I surrounded by family and friends, but I was in a familiar environment. And although it did take a lot of time and a lot of hard work to process what I've been through, analyze my feelings and figuring out what happened to me up there. Um, I came back to Long Island a broken man. I didn't even recognize myself. I mean, I looked in the mirror, and to be honest, I was looking at a total stranger because I had no idea who this person was. Um, they were, farthest from myself that I've ever been, and it was tough. It was tough to get back into some sort of sense of normalcy. And like I said, it took a few months. It even took probably up to another year to just kind of work on myself and focus on myself and tell myself that it was going to be okay and move forward. And honestly, if I didn't have Star Wars and I didn't have that love for Star Wars when I did, then I don't know how I would have made it through my time at the University of Buffalo. But this kind of correlates to what I was saying earlier, how, some people are just simply fans of a franchise, and then some people, for them, it has a much deeper meaning. And this is the story that I always turn to if somebody was to ask me, why do you love Star Wars? Well, for those of you that don't know, I mean, this is this is why I love Star Wars. Um, and this is why Star Wars has such a deep and emotional connection with me. So to fast forward, um, while I was back home, when I was finishing up my bachelor's degree on Long Island, I was also working at AMC Theaters part time, and it's probably one of my favorite part time jobs that I've worked so far, and I love my time there. The only reason why I actually left was because I moved down to Florida, and I've been here for almost 2 years. But if I stayed in New York, I'd probably still be at AMC, to be honest. And I do miss it sometimes. It was great. Uh, but furthermore, like I said, I was finishing up school, and I was working at the movies part time. Eventually my brother joined me. Not only at Cinema Westbury, but he also joined me at AMC Theaters. So not only did we go to school together, but we also worked together. And that was when Star Wars started to announce they had plans for a sequel trilogy. And this is also when they started to announce, some Star Wars story projects, which were like, standalone films. They announced some future shows on their new streaming service, Disney Plus. And with all this Star Wars news coming out and being announced, it was like a revival of something that necessarily did not die, with us. I mean, like I said, our love for Star Wars was always there, but this was something that revived and reinforced, the love that we had for Star Wars. I mean, once these projects were announced, we became as fanatical and obsessed with it as we always were. And one of the best parts about working at the movie theaters was that we were able to work these Star Wars movies that were coming out. And obviously, one of the most influential times that we have had at the movie theater was when me and my brother worked Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And, before anybody says anything, yes, I know obviously the sequel trilogy has had some debate over it. Some people don't love it. Some people think it's okay. And then, some people think it's the best, piece of media in the world. But, say what you want to say about it, but not only just being a Star Wars fan, but being able to sit there and realize that this is the last movie that they're going to make for the Skywalker saga. And the fact that we get to sit here and work it, and we see people coming in cosplays and people coming from multi-generational backgrounds and being like, "Oh yeah, I saw the first movie, A New Hope, in theaters, in 1970s, and now I'm watching the last one with my children." It's like that's what being a Star Wars fan and that's what being a fan is all about. And it's one of the best memories that I've had at AMC theaters and just working a job in general. And it was something that I will always remember for the rest of my life. No matter how good or how bad the movie was, the fact that we were able to work a Star Wars movie and not only have it be just a simple Star Wars movie, but have it be the last one of the Skywalker saga is what made it so special. I even have the official movie poster, and I did have it hung up where the House of Dragon poster is. I did have it hung up in that frame. However, my brother recently got me the House of Dragon poster because I've been obsessed with Game of Thrones, for a few years, and I watched that. And actually, that poster is signed by the cast and crew of House of the Dragon, which is super cool. And anyway, sorry, little side tangent. Um, and yeah, I mean that is like I said, that is one of the best memories that I have, and again, just further reinforces how Star Wars is special to me and how it's special to the community as well. Um, sorry, I have the hockey game on in the background, so I keep looking over every now and then. Um, But, after the Rise of Skywalker came out, and obviously that was fairly recently, um, I wouldn't say our love for Star Wars died down, but obviously, just like any fan of the community, people weren't sure what was next for Star Wars. Obviously this was the last we were going to be seeing of the Skywalker family and the characters that we've known and love. Besides the Disney Plus TV shows that they had coming out, with some familiar, friends and faces, nobody knew what the future of Star Wars held. That was not until recently, where recently in London they had Star Wars Celebrations 2023, and they recently just announced a whole brand new canonical timeline, and they announced all these different shows that are filming and coming out, and they announced the next three big movies for the Star Wars universe, which is going to take place. The first one is going to be a Dawn of the Jedi movie, which basically focuses on the rise of the first Jedi. which is like the first era that they um consider, with their new timeline. So it goes like Dawn of the Jedi, Old Republic, High Republic, and so on and so forth. So one of the movies is going to focus on the dawn of the first Jedi, how the Jedi came to be, who was this mysterious person that dubbed themselves the first Jedi. The second movie is supposed to be directed and produced by Dave Filoni, and it's basically supposed to encompass what people are coining the Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, and the Ahsoka show as the Mandoverse. And it's basically going to be accumulation of all those shows coming together for one final movie, and basically this movie is going to end like all of those TV shows. And basically, the way they make it sounds like it's going to be the New Republic versus the Imperial Regency. So, I mean, if anybody's played Star Wars Battlefront 2, you know that there was a campaign where you played as a ex Special Forces stormtrooper, and we saw the end of the Galactic Empire or the Imperial Regency at the Battle of Jakku. So, we don't know we don't know much, to be honest. Only that it encompasses the Mandoverse and is being directed by Dave Filoni. So that is definitely something to look forward to. And finally, uh, we have confirmation that we are having a movie set 15 years after the sequel trilogy, and is bringing back Rey as she attempts to rebuild the Jedi Order. And this is the one that a lot of people are kind of speculating about and have their concerns about. And, we can go into a whole conversation on why the simple plot of the story does not make sense. But this is not what we're here for. I mean, we talked about it a little bit in our part one and part two of our discussion on Star Wars celebrations. So if you guys haven't checked it out, please go check it out and you'll know more about what I'm talking about. But you know, to kind of summarize and to kind of wrap up, the end of this conversation and the point that I'm making by kind of discussing Star Wars and my journey and what the future holds is that no matter how old we got, no matter what we were going through, where we were, Star Wars was always an essential part of our lives. From a young age, barely comprehending it, on a laptop to now I'm sitting here 23 years old and my love for Star Wars has never wavered. If anything, it's definitely grown. Um, and that has been the one constant or one of the constants in my life. And I'm not only grateful for Star Wars, but I'm also grateful for the memories that it has allowed me to make. Not only has it allowed me to embrace myself, for who I am, just a shy, nerdy, kid, but it also allowed me to get close to my family and it allowed me to get close to my brother, which is one of the most important relationships in my life. And Star Wars is definitely at the center of that. Um, we each had like, similar experiences to how Star Wars affected us. But one of the best things that has came out of Star Wars is the relationship that I have with my brother. And I mean, this tattoo is very, symbolic of that. Not only does it just show, my love for Star Wars, but it also has a deeper meaning, at least to myself. And again, I cannot thank the Star Wars universe enough. I cannot thank George Lucas and Lucasfilms enough for creating this beautiful piece of cinema and then continuing on with more and more movies and TV shows. And the future just keeps getting brighter and brighter for Star Wars. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future and how these new projects that they announced will come to fruition. But like I said, guys, it was definitely going to be a shorter episode today since it was just me. I'm not actually sure how long this episode is. So I guess once it's posted, you will find out. And I'll find out after I finish recording because, it will tell me. But, for you guys, it will be a mystery until you see it posted. So I want to thank you guys for coming out today. I know this is a little different. I mean, I know my brother has done a few episodes in the past just by himself. But this is actually the first time that I'm doing an episode by myself. So I really hope you guys enjoyed my story and how Star Wars has personally inspired me and what Star Wars truly means to me. And honestly, I would love for you guys to show your support. Leave a like and a comment. Just let us know what Star Wars meant to you. How has Star Wars impacted your life? Do you have any memories, you would like to share? And overall, what Star Wars means to you. So thank you guys for coming out to this episode today where I just simply discuss, my Star Wars story. Just just like Solo and Rogue One, this is my Star Wars story. So thank you guys for coming out and listening. It really means a lot. We always appreciate all the love and support that you guys give us, whether we post these videos and we see one or two people view them and listen to them, or we see, you know, 10 or 12 people listen to them and view them. It means the world to us. Any support that you guys give us, it really does mean a lot. And you might not see it behind the scenes, but we're always talking about how much our fan base means to us and how much our community means to us. And just the fact that we have people coming out and supporting us, as we drop new episodes, it really means the world to us. And I personally just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I know my brother does all the time, but again, I want to personally thank you guys from the bottom of my heart because it just means so much to us that we had this crazy idea one day of creating a podcast, again, inspired by Star Wars, and just to simply talk about the things that we love. And the fact that we have people that come out and support us and listen to what we have to say is amazing. And again, I would not trade any of that for the world. And no matter how well this podcast does, whether we stay small and obscure or we become extremely popular, these will always be memories that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I hope anybody that is a fan of us and a viewer of us could look back at all these different episodes, not only on YouTube but on Spotify and other platform services, and feel the same way. So to further elaborate on our platforms and where you can find us, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Two Sons Podcast. That is with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. We recently also just opened up a YouTube channel, also under Two Sons Podcast, which will also be posting videos. Just like how usually videos for us come out Thursday, videos for the YouTube will come out Wednesday night. Standard platform services out on Thursday. So, like I said, that is Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Two Sons Podcast, along with YouTube and also TikTok. I do manage a TikTok account for us. It is also Two Sons Podcast. So basically, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are all Two Sons Podcast, as with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. If you're watching this on YouTube, it says I'm still recording, but it looks like my picture froze. So I hope that resolves itself. If I apologize that it froze on you. Hopefully you can still hear my voice, and for those of you that are listening, hopefully you can still hear my voice as well. Um, but once again, I want to thank you guys so much for coming out today. Please drop a like, leave a comment, let us know what your favorite Star Wars memory is and what Star Wars has meant to you. In honor of Star Wars Week and May the 4th, I hope everybody has a wonderful May the 4th. Have a great day whenever you listen to this, and may the with you, and you all have a good one.